So I'm driving down the road, and it seems that recently I've started to notice things more. I've started to notice a change in the way that I see things and the way that I perceive certain subjects within photography. You know, maybe last year or 2 years ago I would have seen something out in nature and not perhaps recognized it as a photograph, and things have definitely changed for me over the past year, 18 months, even 2 years. There's been a slow progression, and what I'm finding is the type of images that I'm really starting to enjoy and that capture my imagination are those images that have very little in them. Images that are peaceful, images that are interesting in their own unique way. So I was driving down the road, and again, I always keep my camera in the back of my car, although funnily enough it's not something I often talk about because of security reasons. You know, I don't want everybody knowing that my camera gear is always in the back of my car. But it's insured anyway, so no big deal. But yeah, I was driving down the road, and I'm always on the lookout for plantation woodland, perfect plantation woodland, small pockets of trees that are perfectly uniform and straight, and my hope is that given the right conditions, perhaps some snowfall, mist, fog, the right light, those images will lend themselves very well to a simplistic, minimalist scene that just inspires stillness, peace and quiet, because I find myself getting quite anxious and quite stressed more and more these days. So I'm actually trying to eliminate things from my life, which sounds daft, I know, but you know, things like unnecessary jobs, unnecessary emails, taking on jobs that I really don't want to take on but I'm too polite to say no, that kind of thing, you know, chucking out old junk that never really serves a purpose. And I guess the same is happening with my photography. The images that I'm seeking are more peaceful, I suppose, more empty, more minimal, dare I say it. So anyway, driving down the road, and I see this plantation woodland miles in the distance, and I notice something strange about it. I notice something odd, and there's this ginormous tree, or in fact 2 trees, growing out of the middle of this perfectly oval plantation. And it just strikes me as being odd. How did those 2 trees survive when the rest of the trees were obviously felled for farmland? When I saw this driving down the road, now landscape photography doesn't have to be epic. Landscape photography doesn't have to involve a wilderness hike, camping in nature, being attacked by bears, scrambling up frozen waterfall. It doesn't have to be that. Landscape photography can be as simple as being out and being aware. Just driving, maybe you're running an errand, maybe you're picking something up for someone, I don't know what. But I noticed these 2 trees when driving about, just minding my own business. And I had to take a photograph. I didn't have much gear, and I didn't want to use my tripod because the only place that I could stop and capture these trees was pretty much in the middle of a single track lane, and if a vehicle had have come down that lane, it would have been embarrassing. I would have had to put all my gear away, get in the car, drive off and let them past. And yeah, I don't like doing that. I hate disrupting other people with my photography. So I ran out of the car, handheld 200mm, maybe not 200mm, but 200mm lens on 70-200, auto exposure, auto focus, and fired off a round of images, jumped back in the car and carried on with my day. And I finally got around to looking at those images. I didn't upload them straight away, or I didn't import them straight away. I finally got on my computer, got around to looking at the images, and oh man, I absolutely love the image. It's everything that I kind of hope for with my photography these days. Now, you know, it's all subjective, of course, but it's peaceful, it's quiet, it's simple, yet it's intriguing, I think. And especially I captured some birds flying out of those 2 big trees, and that is a small detail that you're only really going to notice when you look at the image close up. So not on Instagram or YouTube or Facebook, but in print. And in a time of immense stress, pressure, anxiety, and everything that's going on in the world, this image, these types of images are what I'm drawn to more than ever before. I'm not at the minute drawn to grand landscapes, big sunrises, big sunsets, lots and lots going on in an image. I'm at the other end of the scale. You know, I'm flipping heck, man, I might even just go and photograph an empty sky. That's kind of how I feel. So let's have a look at the images, pick the best one, process it, and knock out a print. So I've had a look through the images, and immediately I've encountered a problem, and it's a problem that we're all going to face at some point or another as photographers. And hey, it might not even be a problem for some people, but for me right now, it's just causing me a little bit of stress, a little bit of unease, a little bit of unnecessary decision making, or a decision that I'd rather not have to make. Let me explain. Here's this image, right? I love this image. This one's a great version, and one that I would ordinarily go for in terms of processing and printing it. Now, ignore the sheep in the foreground, because with this I would go for a 16:9 crop, and I'd just lose the foreground and probably pull down the sky a little bit like so. Now that is more or less the kind of image that I was going for in terms of framing and whatnot. Obviously I'd tweak it, and this is great because the trees have light on them. You can see it here on the right hand side, and we have a beautifully detailed sky. Here we have a very similar image, only this one has these two birds above the trees, but there's no light. So the decision I have to make is, do I go with the tree with light on it, which overall looks better as a landscape image, or do I go for the tree with no light but the birds around the tree, which tell a great story, add mood and atmosphere, and also, well, make it more of a compelling image. Now, what you could do is Photoshop the images together. So you take the light from one image and you take the bird from the other image. You know, I don't know, I'm uneasy with doing that. I don't mind taking things out of photographs, but I'm not massively keen on putting things in. And I know it's the same image, I know it's the same image, and it doesn't actually matter, it doesn't matter, and it's not the wrong thing to do, and leaving it isn't the right thing to do. It's all about how you feel as a photographer. And I think if a viewer who doesn't know me and doesn't know my work or anything about me was to see this image with the bird, they might think, oh, what a fantastic image. And then if they later on learned that actually that bird was put in from a very similar image taken a few seconds later, they would think a lot less of the image. I know I would if I was doing the image. So there we go. That's why I'm a little bit over with. So what I think I'm gonna do, oh, a tough decision, light or birds, light or birds. We've got to go with the birds. We have to go with the birds. And we'll see what we can do in terms of processing to give it a bit more. So let's have a go at this. I am going to crop it as I did before with my 16:9. So we'll just go ahead and do that very quickly. Now what I can notice over here on the right hand side, there is, hold on, let me finish the crop. I'm just looking at my panel on the left here, and actually that just looks spot on. So we're going to keep that. We've got this bird coming in here. Look at him, just entering frame. Just entering frame. It's a bit annoying because, oh, I don't want to crop it. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to get rid of that in Photoshop. Like I said before, I don't mind taking things out. I'm just not as keen putting things in. What I might also do is just get rid of these two stumps here, which I believe are the tops of fence posts. Again, I find them to be minor distractions and doesn't overall affect the composition, but what it'll give me is that lovely clean line of the hill. So there we go, but I'm not worrying about that just yet. Let's go ahead and process. So I'm going to go for a black and white conversion first and foremost. Instantly, I think that makes it much better. This to me screams black and white. So the first thing I'm going to do, which I wouldn't ordinarily do if I wanted that high contrast black and white image, but I'm just going to lift my shadows just to see if I can pull out a minute amount of detail within the trees here, which I have done just here. So that's good. So I'm going to lift the shadows there. I'm also going to increase the whites, which will really make things pop, especially in the sky there. And I'm going to increase the clarity. Now, clarity needs to be handled with care, I think. And in some images, it works fantastically well. In other images, it can look a bit crunchy and a bit garish. But I think with the texture that we have here in the clouds, a little bit of clarity will go a long way. Especially you can see it down here and obviously over here. So that's looking really nice, really nice. To be honest, I don't really need to do a great deal. I knew I wouldn't need to do a great deal. It is looking pretty good. I'm just looking at my histogram here. And because this is a black and white image, I really want to push the histogram. And you can see we've got a lot of room on the right hand side. That's all white. And especially because I'm printing this image, I do need to be more over towards the right hand side. You know, images look brighter on the computer screen. So if you're going to print an image, it often is beneficial to just increase it by half a stop in terms of brightness, because the print always looks a little bit darker than what you see on screen. I'm just going to increase my contrast here as well. I think black and white, you can just get away with more. Black and white should be bang, you know? Whereas colour, if you take the same approach with colour, it can be a bit... Right, let me add a nice fat vignette. Always love a big, fat, soft vignette. Exposure all the way down. Using this tool here, which I've forgotten the name of. How can I forget the name of this tool? It's this one up here, you know, the, wait for it, the Radial Filter. This is probably gonna make a huge difference, you know. This is good. This is making a great difference to that sky. It doesn't look too obvious, not too garish. Yeah. I think we're done. All right, so we're in Photoshop. I'm just gonna go in with this tool here, which is the spot removal tool. This is important if you're printing your image, not as important if you're just gonna use it online, because you don't tend to notice these things, but if you're printing a photograph, you've gotta go around and look for dust, because on a print, they stick out a mile. Trust me, I've done it. I've done it. Now, I'm not saying that any of the images in my book have dust spots on them or watermarks, but if that were to be the case, you would definitely notice it. The problem is my computer screen's quite dirty, so every time I see a bit of dirt on my screen, I'm like, oh no, and I start trying to clone remove actual dust. All right, that is the image finished. I'm just gonna take it straight into Lightroom, back into Lightroom, send it over to the printer, and there we go. Image start to finish, no epic hiking, no incredible journeys. I certainly was not in the wilderness, nor was I on the other side of the planet. This is just a local area. I was running an errand, driving my car, happened to see an opportunity, and I am incredibly happy with the result. And dare I say it, we have a portfolio image, sir. That's right. Of course, it's all opinion, so let me know in your comments below, but I'm gonna go print it. All right. I don't know why I got up and walked over to the printer, because we've got to go back into Lightroom and we've got to actually get it ready for print. So here's the image. It's a TIFF file because it's been into Photoshop and back into Lightroom, therefore it's been saved as a TIFF. So what I'm going to do is on my keyboard hit the shortcut S, which is a proof preview. And I'm going to make sure that I select the paper that I'm going to put in my printer, which is Platinum Brighter. Which is, it's a nice kind of silky semi-gloss paper, I think. Now, I'm not an expert, I'm certainly not an expert in printing, but generally speaking, if you're going to print high contrast images, whether it's saturated color or black and white with deep blacks and bright whites, then a nice glossy or semi-gloss paper really, you know, gives you those deep blacks, whereas if you use a matte paper, they can look a bit washed out. Now, I have created a proof here. Now, this is simulating what the image will look like when I print it out. And what I can see straight away, straight off the bat, is that my whites have really grayed out. So let me turn off soft proofing and we'll look at the whites here. Now we are on a gray background, which doesn't help, but if we turn on soft proofing, it just loses a little bit of contrast. So what you can do is, with soft proofing switched on, which again is a simulation of what it's going to look like in print, you could just make a couple more tweaks. So I am just going to lift the whites just to bring back that contrast. Just there we go. Well, I've lifted them quite a lot here, but you can see my histogram up here is fine. Now I've made a change to the proof copy. It's asking me if I want to create a proof copy. So it's basically, yeah, it's gonna duplicate the image so that I've still got my original file. So here we go. This is ready for print. All I've done is bring the whites back up. The blacks look pretty good. You can see on the histogram, the blacks are all the way there. Whites all the way there. So let's go over to print. So there we go. Here is the final print, and I think it looks fantastic. And I guess the takeaway from this video is that landscape photography is whatever you want it to be. You know, of course it's great, it gets us in the outdoors, it gets us out exercising, it's good for our mental health and all of the above, but it doesn't have to be about adventure, it doesn't have to be about long hikes. It can be as simple as something capturing your imagination, even if it's right by your vehicle. And I would highly recommend anybody to make tangible prints of their images. I think, you know, I'm not saying print every image, but certainly don't just let them fester on Instagram and Lightroom, because people never see them. But if you've got a print and you can, even, you know, a small one smaller than this, they don't have to be big, but if you've got a print and it's just somewhere visible, then essentially it's timeless. So yeah, there you go. There we go. At the risk of me waffling on for hours, I better end the video. So thank you guys so much for watching. As per usual, if you enjoyed it, please do give it a like, a thumbs up. Leave your comments below about your opinions of this photograph, what you would have done differently. Maybe you would have preferred the one with the light on. Maybe you see the birds as distractions. I don't know, let me know. And if you want a good read, I have a book available, which is in the description below. So until next week, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you then. Hopefully, please come back.